Okay, we're back. We're live. We're here at ThinkTech Talks. We thought we'd begin early because we're so excited about this show. So if you got here on time, well, you'll catch it. You'll catch it late. Anyway, this is ThinkTech Talks on Friday, and although Wednesday is traditionally our State of Energy Day, we're going to do an energy show on Friday, which we sometimes do. We do that when Marco Mangelsdorf is around, and we do that when Howard Wiig is around. Thank you for coming down, Howard.
My pleasure.
Howard is the energy analyst for Hawaii State Energy Office, and the views he may express, which we may extract from him on this show, are his own. Am I right? He's not speaking for the state of Hawaii or any instrumentality.
That is correct.
Okay,
yes.
But still, he's interesting, thoughtful, and very knowledgeable about energy. And we're doing this in lieu of Likeable Science, because the host for Likeable Science, Ethan Allen, is on travel this week. Anyway, so we have a number of really interesting issues, sort of issues that connect other issues that we've been discussing. As I was saying before the show, Howard, your appearance today is important in the sense that it helps us connect so many things we've been talking about, and maybe we haven't had the layback ability to actually connect them. And I hope that the discussion with you will help us do that, and will give us a step forward. So first, you said you wanted to give an overview, and you wanted to talk about the quality of power in our state and what is peak demand, and then we can get on to a larger discussion of a conversation we have entitled "The Effervescence of Efficiency," and that is probably because you're effervescent, Howard. So, what overview did you have in mind?
Okay. One of my many, many hats that I wear is I sit on the board of the Hawaii Society of Professional Engineers. That's the umbrella group for all the engineering associations in Hawaii.
Are you an engineer?
No.
Okay, good.
By osmosis.
Cross-discipline is good.
Cross-discipline, yeah. I just hang around with so many that I get it by osmosis.
By osmosis,
yeah. So my duty was to select a keynote speaker for our annual banquet, which is held in February. Huge banquet, Ko'olau Country Club, nice setting. And I selected Scott Siu, who is the Senior Vice President of Hawaiian Electric, and he's the guy in charge of what I call the revolution of utilities, where they're going from complete control. They buy the energy source, they produce the energy, they distribute the energy, they bill for the energy, they take care of the problems. They were totally in control. That is no longer the case. So in introducing Scott Siu, I went back to 1789, the beginning of the French Revolution.
But that's a reasonable jump.
Sure.
You're going to have to explain that segue to us.
I said some people, like Marie Antoinette, did not fare so well in the French Revolution.
She was not efficient. See what happened to her.
And others, like Napoleon, fared very well indeed. And then I pointed to a doom and gloom article that had just appeared in PBN about the utilities' future. It was very gloomy. And so I said, which shall it be, Mr. Siu? And I said, I think I know the answer. It gives me pleasure to bring to the podium Mr. Scott Napoleon Siu. And sure enough, he gave this very rosy picture. He acknowledged that the utility is in very, very revolutionary times. And he ratified what my opinion was also. It was nice to see that we're exactly on the same page. So what's happening? The utility used to be totally in control. It is morphing into more of a energy distributor, where there's all these different energy sources coming from all different directions, and it's up to Hawaiian Electric to collect them into one grid, and then to keep that grid going smoothly, even though a lot of these energy sources are what's called intermittent power, as opposed to firm power. If you have a PV grid up on your roof and you're looking at the meter, and it's a nice sunny day, and say it's a 30 kW system, the meter is hovering between 29, 30 kW, everything's fine. All of a sudden it dips to 19 kW, 18 kW, what's going on? a cloud is passing over. Then the cloud goes away, zoom, it goes back up to 30 kW. Multiply that scenario by thousands of times across the island, and what do you have? What's called dirty power. Hawaiian Electric's one of their foremost responsibilities is to deliver clean power. How do you define clean power?
I don't think people really get that. I mean, so we come in and the lights are on, the equipment's working. I go home, the lights are on, the equipment's working. And if it wasn't, I would be really upset.
You would be
My
really
life
upset,
would be disrupted. And if it happened to everybody in the state, our society would be disrupted. And we expect, more than anything, we expect the utility to generate that and provide that for us. And if it didn't, we would be very unhappy campers.
Upset. And especially now that more and more of our electrical consumption is in the form of high-tech electronics, computers being the easiest example. Computers are very sensitive. You give them a blip up, you give them a blip down, they get very unhappy very quickly. So clean power more than ever is really, really essential. How do you define clean power? Electricity is delivered in something measurable by hertz, H-E-R-Z, and that measures the number of electric fluctuations per second. And the ideal for Hawaiian Electric is to deliver 60 hertz. They don't want to go below 59.5. They don't want to go above 60.5. Keep it right in that tiny, tiny narrow band. But what do you do when you have all these PV systems going from 30 kW to 20 kW back up to 30 kW, and meanwhile you've also got all this wind power coming in, and the wind's blowing at 20 miles an hour, then it shifts to 5, and then it goes back to 20, then a Kona weather day comes and it goes to 0. What do? You have to control that power, keep it clean. And what they're having to do, this is utilities across the world, not just ours.
You haven't even gotten to the question of what happens at night. But we'll get.
That's
You want to talk about
yeah.
that now or later?
No, that's later.
Okay.
So they have to, right now, do what's called dump power. If there's too much coming in from the alternate sources, and they have a steady stream coming in from their steady sources, they have to dump some of that power in order to maintain that 60 hertz. Is there an answer to that? Yes. First and foremost answer is smart grid. As many people as you would quiz about the definition of smart grid, you probably get as many different answers. My definition of smart grid is first and foremost, say on the island of Oahu, all the substations. Hawaiian Electric goes from the power plants to substations to substations and then into our homes and buildings. All the substations are totally integrated so that if one substation has too much power and the other can absorb it, they shift from substation to substation. Then you get to the sub-sub, you integrate all those, and this can be all done by computer. And then finally, this is in the future, my vision only, you get down to the level of every building and every home, and if they're getting too much power, they can deliver to certain pre-agreed sources within buildings, or if they have too little power, they can do, and here's your first topic, demand response, where every home has an agreement with Hawaiian Electric saying, yes, if you need some of my power, you can turn my air conditioning system up by 2 degrees, you can dim my lights by 20%. If I have hot water, hot water resistance, you can just turn off my hot water system for 15 minutes. That's the real biggie. Now you're being able to smooth your power and absorb that intermittent power. Smart grid, first. And we are evolving to that. The European nations are probably ahead of us in that. California is madly developing smart grid. They're way ahead of the rest of the nation.
And way ahead of Hawaii.
Way ahead of Hawaii and the rest of the states. There's some other states that are really working on it. And I happen to know that Hawaiian Electric is indeed working very, very hard at developing a demand response provision. They already have some pilot programs out there that are working very nicely, all the way down to the residential level.
Okay, what about at night?
At night, good question. Here is the irony of PV systems, photovoltaic. In the afternoon, they're producing like mad. We used to worry about peak demand occurring around 1:30 in the afternoon, and Hawaiian Electric might actually have to build a new power plant to accommodate that. But no, peak demand in the afternoon has been going down, 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 down. Why? Because of efficiency and because of all those PV systems out there. So we're certainly taking care of the afternoon peak. That's POW. But we are unique in a nation, this is all islands, in being what's called an evening peaking utility, where starting about 5 o'clock, instead of the demand for electricity going down, it goes up. Why? Because everybody's getting home, they're turning on the TVs, the dishwashers, the refrigerators opening and closing, kids are taking a shower. Huge, huge, huge burst in demand. Plus,
It's a transition time.
yeah,
Because in fact, they turned off the machines in the office, probably. So there's a reduction there
Yep.
at, say, 5 o'clock. And at 6 o'clock, they're home and they're doing the transition.
yeah.
And at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, it's probably not as much because they're done with the transition.
Nope.
Everything's settled in already.
No, if you look at the power curve, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, we're still going strong.
Okay, the end of the transition.
Yeah. Right around 9 o'clock, it starts dipping
Yeah,
pretty
okay.
dramatically.
Okay.
But here's that other factor. What's the true driver of our economy? Tourism. What do the tourists do during the day? They shop, they go to the beach, tours, so forth. When do they get back to their hotels?
Late afternoon.
Right about 5.
Yeah.
All the showers go on, all the lights go on, all the TVs go on, and then they go to the restaurants and bars, and those are going absolutely strong. So you have going home plus tourism, and that equals an evening peak. But meanwhile, your PV power has disappeared. Now what do? First, one of my proposals, not revolutionary at all, solar water heating, very low tech. But think about it. All day long in solar water heating, the water tanks are getting hotter and hotter and hotter. By the late afternoon, you have a completely full tank of hot water. People come home, they do the dishwasher, the shower, so forth. How much electricity are they using for that hot water? 0. Because they've got all that hot water stored up. It's the perfect peak
I think
shaver.
the operative term, Howard, is stored up. It's storage.
Yeah, it's storage.
Solar water, conventional solar water is storage.
Absolutely.
And it makes me think, in my long-term vision, that if you said, look, we're not going to do hot water with PV or generated power. All the hot water in the state has to come from conventional solar, because that includes automatic storage. But it doesn't answer the larger question, though. So putting water aside, now it's it's transition time, and there's no more PV, and right now there's no more storage either. Where do you get the power from?
Okay, good question. You go to my favorite topic, efficiency. Instead of having a huge spike, you have a much smaller spike, and let's just keep it to the residential level. Why? Not only do you have your tank of hot water, but all your other energy-using equipment, it consumes less than it used to. Why? Because technology is advancing very, very rapidly. Say back in...
Okay, that's the consumer efficiency, the Ray Starling world.
Yes.
But I'm talking about, Watt 1. Where do you get Watt 1 from after the sun goes down?
Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about, let's keep to the island of Oahu, and let's talk about the fact that we had 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 power plants, different power plants on Oahu. We had 9, we now have 8. Why? our downtown Honolulu power plant shut down.
But it was peanuts.
Yeah, it was small, but it's a beginning. We can, with more efficiency, shut down more of those inefficient power plants. There's a Waiau power plant by Pearl Harbor, and there's 4 generating units in it, 2 of which are inefficient. Hawaiian Electric is thinking about shutting down those 2 when they reach a certain level of efficiency.
But inherent in your answer, Howard, and I'll let you ruminate through the break, and you can correct me if you wish. Inherent in your answer is we do have to have conventional diesel power plants to generate Watt 1 after the PV goes down.
Absolutely.
And if we don't have that, we have dark city.
Absolutely. We're going to be using oil for a long, long time. My job, and job of many other people out there, is to reduce that amount of oil needed and make use of all these other energy sources so that all those dollars we're pouring overseas to the oil exporters gets less and less and less and less and less, and we keep those dollars at home.
Okay?
But we will need
We're
oil.
going to take it. We can take it. We will need oil. In the model you described, we will always need oil.
Not always. We're talking 20 years down the road. You look 40 years down the road, we may not need oil.
Whoa, I'm getting excited now.
Yes.
So much so I have to take a break. Howard Wiig, energy analyst, the State Energy Office, and he speaks on his own account today. Today, Friday, in Hawaii, the state of clean energy. Why? It's because Hawaii is the state of clean energy on Wednesday, Friday, and every day. And today we're talking about the effervescence of efficiency. That's Howard's title for the show. And I commend him on that. I don't understand it, but I commend him on that. We'll be right back.
Aloha, I'm Carlos Juarez, host of our show Global Connections here in the ThinkTech Hawaii series. And Global Connections, of course, very important because we live in a world that is increasingly interdependent. We bring global issues here to the table. We bring people, informed subject matter experts. We also underscore how important Hawaii is to the world, people who are making the difference in the world here. As you've seen from some of our shows, we bring experts, and joining us for today's show as an example, Patrick Branco, a U.S. diplomat who's from Kailua, grew up here and is now helping bring aloha to the world of diplomacy. Patrick, thank you again for joining us here on Global Connections, a show that helps keep us connected to the world. Anything you can add for us?
Yeah, it's great to be here. This is my second time on the show, and it's great to always talk about global issues, but in a Hawaii context,
Excellent.
which is always wonderful.
Yeah, so stay tuned. Global Connections, part of our ThinkTech series. Aloha. Aloha, I'm Carlos.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day, host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the ThinkTech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We're alive. We're thinking about the future of Hawaii. We're thinking how important it is to have clean energy here. We're thinking about keeping our kids here, too. It's all related. Everything is related. On Friday in Hawaii, the state of clean energy, talking about the effervescence of efficiency. What was that? Onomatopoeia. Yeah. No?
Yes.
Alliteration.
Alliteration. Yeah.
That's Howard Wiig next to me, energy analyst for the State Energy Office. His views, as expressed today, are his own. And we are talking about, before the break, talking about Watt 1. Watt 1 is the watt after the PV doesn't produce anything. And you can avoid having to spend Watt 1 on water by going to conventional water heaters, which I think is a great idea. And it should be, the law, the regulation should be a requirement because it would save us so much energy. But at the end of the day, if you don't have PV, what we got here right now, we got PV and we got oil. Correct me if you want to talk about a third possibility, but right now today, it's PV and oil. That's what we got. And solar, conventional solar water. We don't have geothermal to speak of, not on Oahu. We don't have ocean energy. We don't have biofuel to speak of, except in very limited pockets of activity which are not, systemic. So the question is, to generate Watt 1 today, we have to use fossil fuel imported from places that don't necessarily like us, and that are volatile and maybe unpredictable and risky for an island state. Okay, so you said, as I recall, and we can roll the tape back if you want. You said that in 20 years' time, or some distant time in the curve here, we will be able to dispense with oil. Okay, for that Watt 1. How we can do that?
Oh, excellent question. Well, one of the alternative sources you did not mention is wind.
Oh, sorry.
I go
Thank
to
you.
the
Thank
North
you.
Shore
Sorry.
pretty
Apologies to all the
frequently.
wind guys. Yeah.
I look up at those huge machines on the North Shore, and most of the time they are revolving.
Okay.
So there's another source.
And they go
for us.
overnight. You have to mention that.
Yeah.
Thing about wind is it's 24 by 7. Only got to say that during the night, wind, am I right about this, is different than during the day.
Yeah.
It's not as much, I think. It's quieter. So it's different.
Yeah, the temperature fluctuations,
Yeah.
which create wind, are lesser during the night. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
You and I both know from experience. Sometimes we get a lot of wind at night too, though. So.
Yeah.
So it's what's called intermittent, and that's where the smart grid comes in. You get a huge whoosh of wind. You use that fully, and you cut back on your oil. The wind goes down. Zoop, the oil
Okay,
comes
so we
back up
do
again.
have wind for Watt 1.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So, but we don't have that much wind, actually.
We are getting more and more and
We're
more.
getting
There's
more,
A lot
but-
of people with a lot of dollars who want to come into all of our islands.
A
and
lot
put
of
up
people,
more
a lot
machines.
of people with a lot of posters and protest signs want to stop them
Yeah.
for reasons that escape me. Actually,
Well, two issues: aesthetics and birds. So.
it still escape me.
Yep.
But nevertheless, I don't know. We don't
It
have
is
to
a-
express
yeah.
that opinion one way or the other. But the point is that wind has been constrained, and let me just wax on that for a minute. Where wind was originally more important, more accepted, more interesting than photovoltaic for many reasons, I guess. Now it's the object of protest, and we know how to do that. I mean, protest. We can protest against anything. We can stop anything, good or bad. And so what's happened is the wind has become, sort of victimized, and it's not moving nearly as fast as we might have expected, and it's really too bad. And so I don't think that's going to change. I think if you see the quality of the protests around wind these days, you get the feeling that it's pretty deeply rooted already. Although 5 years ago it wasn't at all. 5 years, everybody was accepting it. How strange that is. So now, if that constraint continues, and we go 10, 20 years, and wind is, sort of, not as much as, not improved, not increased as much as we want it to be, it's not going to be that big a feature in the landscape. Am I right?
That's correct. Yep.
So,
But who knows? People may accept wind one of these days.
well, maybe out of necessity.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, or rather, at the end of the day is perfect. At the end of the day and during the night, wind may be our only non-oil choice. I would say it is right now our non-only oil
Except
choice.
let me introduce you to something else
Okay.
called WTE, which is waste to energy. We have a nice little power plant out in Campbell Park where all of our garbage, we have to separate recyclables from greens from garbage. That garbage goes out to a plant on Campbell Industrial Park. The garbage trucks unload it into a huge concrete cavern, and guys with bulldozers, number one, look for objectionable materials like propane tanks. Those aren't very good in production plants.
Tend to explode or something.
Yes, with great profusion. And then they push the garbage up ramps, it goes into a huge furnace, and now we are producing, I believe, something like 55 or 58 megawatts of electricity 24/7 with the garbage. So there's a renewable source for you. Now let me introduce you to something else.
Wait. before you go on
Yep.
that. And hold the thought. Okay, if garbage was so good, why don't we? 55 is a small fraction of the daily load. If it's so good, why don't we have more of it? I mean, I remember during Movie Heineman's administration, he got into trouble moving garbage to the mainland on barges, and we have landfill issues.
Yes.
And
yes.
why don't we take all that stuff in the landfill and put it into this plant? Why don't we have 27 plants like that all over the islands and never have, aside from the propane tanks, never had a shred of garbage that stays as garbage. It all gets converted to ash and energy. Why haven't we done that?
There's another plant that has recently come up right in the neighborhood of the landfill, the Waimanalo Gulch, and it does something called pyrolysis, which is another conversion process.
I thought that was a skin disease.
It could be a skin disease if you get too near to it. It's called burning, because it burns hotter than blazes, and it reduces garbage even more thoroughly than does the H-Power plant. And it's up and running. It was in the experimental stage. It's no longer experimental. They're hoping to ramp up and up and up and up and up so that more of your vision is consummated. Now, you mentioned neighbor islands. I know, because I've dealt with these people. Garbage to energy people come to me, and we discuss the fact that none of the neighbor islands have waste to energy. I introduce them to neighbor island guys. They knock on doors. They talk to councilmen. They talk to mayors. And they say, we have money. We believe in our technology. We will set up a plant on your landfill.
I know that's true.
And we can do it in a modular way. We can start with no more than a 40-foot container. We can feed garbage into it, hook it to the grid, sell you firm power. And we will do all the upfront costs that I just described, and then we will share in the sale of the electricity such that you, the county, come out ahead on day one. None of those proposals have been accepted. You'll have to talk to the neighbor island powers that be.
I have to say
I'm not
that there's
sure,
really a lack of statewide knowledge about this. We really haven't done our job in making the neighbor islands knowledgeable. I'll never forget, and I've told the story so many times it's burned into my brain already. Sharon Moriwaki and I were doing a Hawaii Energy Policy Forum trip to Lanai to see Energy Day in the high school in Lanai. And we had some footage from a young girl in the high school, and I said, how are you going to solve the energy problem here in Lanai? Same question I put to you. And she says, we'll have PV on every roof, every roof everywhere. We'll have PV. Well, that's great. What about after sunset when the PV doesn't? Because in Lanai, wind is anathema, right? So what are you going to do after the sunsets? She said, oh, no problem. We'll go to sleep early.
Which is a good
rings in my
Lanai type
head,
answer.
And I don't understand why the neighbor islands don't get this. I mean, what is it? They don't like garbage, but they wind up at the end of the process with more garbage than they would have had had they adopted these proposals.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one thing. You'll agree with me that we haven't done as much with this as we should have done with it.
That's one reason I have some gray hairs around the temples here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but you had another technique where you're going to generate Watt 1.
Well, yeah, and that is in the form, and this is for isolated pockets, but important pockets. It's called distributed generation, and that is where you set up a great big diesel burning plant or biodiesel burning plant, say next to a neighbor island resort. And on the neighbor islands, the resorts are the huge consumers of electricity. You fire up that diesel and you feed very, very clean electricity into the resort. And they're big users, but that's not all. That diesel engine produces a lot of heat. You run water by it via heat exchange. You get superheated steam. You direct that steam to the resort laundry. Get beautiful, beautiful laundering out of that. It comes out of the laundry. It still is really, really hot, above boiling. Direct that into the kitchen. Wash all your pots, pans, dishes, everything at more than boiling water. You don't need to use any detergents at that point. Comes out of the kitchen, you still have heat. You direct it to the hotel rooms, 130, 125 degrees. There's your shower water. You still have heat. After that, you direct it into your swimming pools. The result is that that big diesel engine, instead of being 36% efficient, which is the norm for new power plants, it is more like 85, even 90% efficient. So you're still using diesel, but you're using just a fraction of it. And
What is this
could
called?
be, distributed generation.
Okay. Well, but the operative term is diesel. You still have to have diesel to run.
Or biodiesel. You could run it on biodiesel too.
Okay,
But you're using a lot less. What I'm doing is getting that amount of oil down. And
Okay.
this is a
But
beautiful
that's a
way
question
to
of
get it down.
efficiency. That's effervescence efficiency for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But aside from that, what do you got
Okay.
for Watt
then,
1? For Watt 1.
Well, for nighttime generation, for the foreseeable future, we still need oil. But you mentioned biodiesel and other types of oil. We now, at every one of us, or most of us, have a green bin for our green garbage. We generate on these beautiful islands, because we grow things 365 days a year, we generate a lot of green waste, and we have vacant land where we can grow a lot of very easy to grow crops. Harvest those, squeeze the oil out of it, use that as one biodiesel energy source. Another that hasn't been fully explored is the use of algae. Create huge ponds next to a power plant, pump carbon dioxide, waste product of power plants, into that pond. Algae grows like mad. Harvest that algae, squeeze the oil out of it. There you've got another source. And the byproduct of both those afterwards can be cattle feed or pig feed.
Can
There's
I
another
respond to
source that's
both of
coming
those?
down.
Both
Yeah.
of those things. The first one, biofuel. You know, we could have had a brilliant solution to that in AKP, Ainakoa Pono, and 2 or 3 times the PUC shot it down.
Yep.
Said that it was going to be too expensive, even though it created jobs. And if you added the jobs back into the, the cost per kilowatt, it would have been much cheaper when you take it on an organic level. But nevertheless, we don't have any real systemic biofuel now. And in fact, most recently, Pacific Biodiesel closed the plant,
Yeah.
which is really too bad. And it was a bill in Ledge that would have incentivized biofuel this year. It failed. I don't think there's a lot of interest in biofuel. I think everybody is like hypnotized by the romance of PV. Maybe that should have been our title for the show. And I wish, you say the same thing with garbage to fuel. If we wanted to do it, if we were Singapore, then Lee Kuan Yew said, we're going to do garbage to fuel now, it would happen.
Yeah.
Bingo. If we were in Singapore, we wanted to have biofuel run a good part of the load, bingo, it would happen. But it doesn't happen. Year after year drifts by, and we're still in, like deer in the headlight with PV, which has, definitely has difficulties, which I will tell you my thoughts about that. What was the second one now you talked about?
Oh, I get right back. Oh, batteries.
Battery. No,
Batteries.
before that, you had another idea.
Plain old, no, waste to energy and distributed generation.
Distributed generation. That takes me directly to the point you were making, and that's storage in batteries. We need to talk about that, Howard, because that's like the elephant in the room somehow. But it's time for a break, and so I'm going to give you a moment to recapture your thoughts on that, and then we'll come back and we're going to find out about whether batteries really have a place in the system you're describing. Howard Wiig, energy analyst, State Energy Office. His opinions are his own today, not the government. It's Friday, and it's in Hawaii, the state of clean energy, and we're talking about the effervescence of efficiency and much more here on ThinkTech Talks. I'm Jay Fidell. We'll be right back. I'm Jay Fidell. That's Sharon Moriwaki of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum. And every Wednesday we have Hawaii, the state of clean energy. We've been doing it for some time now, and we have some fantastic guests on there, unbelievable guests who give us insight into what is going on in a very complex, sometimes very confusing, sometimes very disappointing area of progress in the state. So we love doing this. We love meeting them. We love talking to them. We love having their ideas out on the table. So maybe, just maybe, we can all make some sense of what's going on. Sharon, what do you think?
I think that's absolutely correct. We enjoy ourselves meeting with all these people and hearing about the energy and the state of clean energy, and hopefully we advance clean energy for the state. So it's terrific. Join us. Come
Okay,
join
it's
us.
every Wednesday. Okay, Wednesday is Energy Day. Every
Energy
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
4 to 5 p.m. Hawaii, the state of clean energy, here on ThinkTech Hawaii.
Energy
We'll see you
Wednesday.
there.
Okay, we're back. We're live. This is ThinkTech Talks. I'm Jay Fidell. It's Friday here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy. We're talking about the effervescence, his word, of efficiency with Howard Wiig, energy analyst in the State Energy Office, and his views today are his own. So as we left, we were on the cusp of the most important part, in my view, of our discussion. That is, what about storage? This is so important. This is the elephant in the room. What about it, Howard?
Okay, well, first I want to say that there's no one silver bullet to getting us off of oil. That's all. We all have that in mind, but it's not going to take one silver bullet. It's going to take a scattershot of many, 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 many silver pellets. And I'm describing one silver pellet after another, each of which is going to dip us down, 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 down towards our goal.
Okay, this is the last watt then. The last watt created by diesel.
Yeah.
We got to get rid of that. And I think for that, I think you'll have to agree with me that storage will be necessary.
Storage, the easiest type of storage is batteries. We all grew up with our conventional lead acid batteries and our flashlight batteries. There are companies worldwide who are devoting tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars in research in coming up with better and better batteries, and by George, they have come up with them, and the efficiency and the durability of those batteries is increasing virtually every day, and as mass production happens, the cost per unit goes down, down, down. So that is in the pretty near term. Now what we can do, you're asking what happens when the sun goes down at night and PVs stop producing. One thing is at that point, the batteries come online and you can have separate PVs feeding into those batteries so that at the end of the day, they're chock-a-block full of energy and ready to take over the task. But that said, you need to reduce the energy use in each home, each building to the minimum so that those batteries can handle
And be
the
minimal,
load.
yeah. We want minimal batteries because maximal batteries are way too expensive.
Yeah.
So let me throw one at you.
Sure.
Joe Saturnia and Empower, Empower. I forget the name of his company, but they make Empower. It's a battery unit you can put in your house, and it's about the size of this table. And in there, you can have like 3 or 4 days of stored PV power. And when the PV goes off at night, or for that matter, I mean, should there be a very long night, I guess, the thing will keep on going. Remember we had that rain a few years ago that lasted for a month?
40 days and 40 nights.
Yeah, it was out of the Bible, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, something like that, would be helpful to have more than one night. Anyway, so he's actually got this. And depending on the size of the PV installation on your home, it's going to cost some money, but at least maybe $15,000 in addition to the cost of PV. But with this, you are assured, of having power at night. So, I mean, hopefully it's going to cost less in the future as technology does, hopefully. And if that were the case, why don't I, as Lee Kuan Yew, the Lee Kuan Yew of Hawaii, I say, look, you guys, if you want to put PV on your roof, you have to buy the battery. Because we aren't going to buy any power from you. Everybody's trying to sell us power. We don't want the power. If you want to be covered, get a battery, and it's your cost. and it's going to cost you, and we give you credit because we're nice guys, because we want to incentivize this sort of system. Why don't we do that? Why don't we, put the extra expense where it belongs, that is the guy who put the PV on his roof, and require him somehow, or at least incentivize him to buy a battery kit. Huh? Why not do that?
Well, the logical path to that would be not quite as revolutionary as you're describing, covering the whole cost, but to extend the state 30% tax credit and the federal 35% tax credit to battery storage.
Great idea.
Bring it down from, say, 15,000.
It doesn't cover that now?
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah.
You'd have to kind of stretch to do that.
Yeah.
And
But I
then
mean, if
there is-
that were the case,
Yeah.
net energy metering, in my view, well, I like your view, I won't tell you my view, but in net energy metering, is it still relevant? Because, it's the thing that everybody, when they make the spreadsheet up and try to sell you a rooftop full of PV, it's built in with the net energy metering, and they say, oh, look what a great deal you're going to get. Not only will you have power during the day, but when you need, when you have extra power, you'll be able to sell it at retail back to the utility. Wow, what a great, you can retire that way. It's a coupon clip on your investment. What if we just drop that idea? Do we really need that?
Right now, it's working pretty darn good. Just look at the demand curve for
We have
oil.
interconnection
in the afternoon.
problems left and right. I mean, it's to a crisis on interconnection problems.
Yeah, well, that's what I mentioned about clean power. There's just too much intermittent power coming in for the grid to handle. Therefore, the grid has to dump some of that power.
So why
So
in the
you-
world would I as a utility be paying retail for intermittent power, which is going to cost me a bundle to smooth out with extra equipment that you can tell us about? Why shouldn't I pay some kind of reduced charge for that? A fraction of that? Or I say, look, Howard, great that you have the PV on your roof, that's fabulous, but we're not going to apply net energy metering to intermittent power. You want to sell us power at wholesale or retail, whatever the price is, get a battery and send it to us clean. Because if it's clean, we can use it, we know we can use it, it helps, it makes the whole system healthier and more robust.
Yep.
Well, is that unreasonable to ask?
That's not unreasonable. However, it's very expensive.
It's going to be expensive for someone on one side of the equation or the other. They're going to have to smooth out the curve. Why should it be the utility? You know why? I mean, why am I concerned about this? Because I don't have PV in my roof. I'm paying for them, the utility, to buy equipment to smooth out this guy's power, for which he's getting paid retail, because he didn't want to put a battery in himself. I don't think that's fair. Why should I pay for him?
Because he is helping to reduce oil importation into Hawaii. He's keeping more dollars at home. And in installing the PVs and in installing the batteries, he is employing highly skilled people who are paying taxes up the wazoo and are able to pay their mortgages, send their kids to school, travel, and
I think
so
we've
forth.
squeezed the jobs argument to a frazzle already about jobs. I mean, there are people who, those companies are going out because they have too many employees, frankly. And if they're having a consolidation right now, I think some of those guys should get other jobs.
Well, they're headed back for solar water heating, incidentally.
Good.
Yeah.
That's a good direction
Yeah,
per your earlier suggestion. Anyway, I mean, I guess I've revealed my feeling about this, but I really feel that in large part it's a dollar amount question of who bears the burden of smoothing out the curve, and everybody is attacking the utility, including the PUC, with fairly vague statements of demand in its orders to say fix it, just go fix it. When in fact, if they fix it, utility, at my expense, and I'm not a PV customer, then I'm paying for the other guy. And I'm paying for him to get net energy metering at retail. I feel that's unfair.
Well, for one thing, it hasn't happened yet, but it will happen in my opinion, in the foreseeable future. The cost of electricity will go down because of the huge percentage of renewable energy coming in. We are paying $130 a barrel for the oil that fuels our power plants right now. Why are we paying so much? Because of the Fukushima disaster. Japan shut down all their nuclear plants. They went to oil. What sort of oil do they need? The same sweet, low sulfur oil that we need. Demand goes up,
Sure.
price goes up.
Global. We have to get off oil.
$130 a barrel.
But when I pay the utility extra rates in order for the utility to implement, the smooth, smart grid equipment to smooth the curve, I'm supporting the guy who has the PV to get paid at retail, and that's the oil rate. I'm paying the oil rate for him, and I don't. Said before.
I don't know if Hawaiian Electric will agree with me. I think they will, but I see, as more and more renewable comes in, I see the cost of a KWH going down because it's not hooked to that $130 barrel oil.
Okay,
That's my personal vision.
Yeah, I mean, if renewables, at a certain point, we may be close to that now,
Yeah.
oil is going to be more expensive than renewables. That's fine, except that what you're describing, and we only have 5 minutes left, that's because we're having a really good conversation. What you're describing is a very expensive, I'll read the list of these things, is a very expensive proposition. And if we had your wish list, Howard, we'd be spending a bloody fortune. Somebody, I don't know who, but somebody would be spending a lot of money. And you have to factor that in. And so it may be that renewables for the last kilowatt are cheaper at some point in time than diesel. We got to factor in the fact that to use them, we have to build new infrastructure. Any technology, especially cutting-edge technology, costs money. I'll read your list.
You mentioned renewables. We haven't really gotten into efficiency yet, which is
Well,
my
these are
big-
efficiency concepts. Demand response.
Demand response.
Costs money.
It wouldn't
Time of day
cost-
pricing costs money. Smart grid, whatever it is, contemplates equipment that costs plenty money. You listed a high-level energy code. That's probably just a matter of regular.
That's just my salary.
Yeah. A prominently displayed real-time electricity meter in every home costs money.
$30 per home.
Okay, somebody has to pay. $30 times what? 200,000 homes in the state? That's a lot of money. That's millions.
Not that when you compare it to $130 barrel oil, it's a drop in a bucket, literally.
Should I pay it?
Yeah, because you get a meter up on your wall.
Okay, I don't mind paying that. And let me leave you with this one thing, and then I'll just let you close with whatever thoughts you have. Why not stop energy metering when the utility doesn't need the power, like in the middle of the afternoon? I'm not going to, the utility is not going to buy energy from anyone when it doesn't need it. Okay, and how do you do that? It's part of smart grid, isn't it? A little box on my house right next to this, what do you call it? Real-time energy meter, okay? And it's controlled by a computer with an algorithm that we can all agree on. It says the utility doesn't need the power right now, and bang, no more. It's effectively dumped at the property line.
Dumping, yeah.
Okay, and that means everybody knows where they are. There are no interconnect problems at all. Nobody can be ticked off about anything. And we're all treated exactly democratically, exactly the same way. I understand they have a box like that. It's not expensive.
Wouldn't be hard, yep. Except now you are tossing out the window many thousands and thousands of megawatt and hours of electrical energy. That's a shame. Instead of tossing it out, have a smart grid that responds to all of that great sunshine and reduces the amount
I don't
of
disagree
oil
with that.
right at that time when you have
This is
maximum sunshine.
after you've done that. After you've been maximum efficiency, the algorithm says, okay, with all our efficiency, with all the things that Howard Wiig suggested, we put all that into place. Now, we still can't use this power.
Yes, you can.
Even
All it
after
takes
you
is
make all your
technology, sure.
effervescent efficiency?
Sure. That now you have massive battery storage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. In that case, you don't need the box.
Don't dump it out into the atmosphere. Dump it into.
In that case, you don't
battery.
need the box. Where are we on storage? I mean, are we going to get that soon?
No, the battery technology for all of this research. I read all these promising papers, but you talk to somebody like Meglisdorf. He says, "I read all this great stuff. Bring it to me. I don't see it. I can't buy it. I can't install it yet." That's where battery is right now.
Talking about Marco?
Yes.
Marco
yes.
Mangelsdorf. Yeah.
And he says, "I read this great stuff, and I read this great stuff too." He is not. He would love to purchase it and help his customers with it. It ain't off the shelf yet, but the research is really there, which is why I'm so optimistic about, say, 20 years from now.
Well, I agree with you in the sense that we have to become as efficient as we can. And as I was saying before the show, your view of it is very refreshing in the sense that you're not just talking about a star energy appliance in the refrigerator. I mean, you're assuming all of that.
Yeah.
And you're going a step further. You're saying, look at the system in general. We need to make the whole system as efficient as we possibly can, and we haven't really done that yet.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of silver pellets out there. We've utilized only a handful of those silver pellets. There's more and more to come. All we have to do is absorb them and reduce the oil down.
Yeah. Are we going to make it, Howard?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Well, close. You have a minute or two to give your views of the matter. You know,
Okay. One thing we didn't talk about, and I have not consulted Hawaiian Electric about this, is time of day pricing. There is peak demand and there's low demand. When there's low demand, there's too much energy out there, and again, at 3 o'clock in the morning, the utilities have to dump it. Why not charge, say, I'll just throw some numbers out, 40 cents a kilowatt hour during peak demand, 30 cents a kilowatt hour for average demand, and 20 or even 15 cents a kilowatt hour for low demand. Leave it up to people to figure out how they're going to balance their own loads. For one thing, they could put their dishwashers and their clothes washers on timers. The low demand starts at midnight, boom, dishwasher, clothes washer goes on. And if they could magically transfer those clothes to the dryer, and if they don't have a solar clothes drying unit yet, dry your clothes at 3 in the morning. That's just a residential example. The commercial people, since they have all these different energy using systems, can do even more. Like your computer bank, if you need to store your energy, do new software programs, so forth, do those at 3 in the morning instead of during peak time.
You know, it reminds me of that issue that came up in the rail and Panos Providoros and his hot lanes and all this. And the idea was you get on a special lane, and the cost that you would pay was all automated. You know, they knew who you were from your car. That if it was a crowded time of day, you would pay more.
I think you've mentioned Singapore. I believe Singapore has that in place.
Yes, really. Other places in Asia too. I mean, it's wonderful. It's a brilliant idea. We have the technology. We should do that right now. You know, and I think you remind me of a kind of frame of mind that existed a few years ago. Is let's try it all, because in all of these ideas there is value, there is promise, there is prospect, and unfortunately, I see if you agree with me, and then we'll close. Some of the great ideas we had we lost them.
Yeah.
We haven't followed up on them, and now we missed that.
Yep. Yeah, well, in closing, I'll say one of my big heroes is Thomas Edison. And in one of his biographies, the biographer argued that in the 50 years of Thomas Edison's active life, he did more to enrich America and the world than did all the universities combined during that time period. Because he tried and tried. If it failed, it failed. He'd try something else.
Howard Wiig, energy analyst from the State Energy Office, coming down and sharing his personal thoughts with us here on Friday in Hawaii, the state of clean energy. We're talking about the effervescence of efficiency in many ways. It's been a lovely conversation. Thank you, Howard.
Thank you.
Aloha.